In the middle of a quiet suburban street, flashing lights cut through the darkness as police cars screeched to a stop. A black man, dressed in scrubs and a white coat, stepped out of his car, his hands raised. "I'm a surgeon," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "I'm on my way to the hospital." But the officers didn't listen. They only saw a man speeding, ignoring his desperate explanation. Little did they know, the man they were handcuffing was the only one who could save a life hanging by a thread, a life that, in a twist of fate, belonged to one of their own children. As the clock ticked down, every second of delay meant the difference between life and death. Will the officers realize the truth in time, or will their assumptions cost them everything? Stay tuned to see how this gripping story unfolds. Dr. Carter, one of the city's top surgeons, had spent the last 15 years saving lives. Known for his calm under pressure, he had faced countless emergencies, but tonight was different. The call came in just as he was leaving for the night. A young child, critically injured in a car accident, needed immediate surgery. Without hesitation, he jumped into his car, racing through the empty streets. Meanwhile, Officer Daniels and his partner, unaware of the unfolding crisis, were stationed nearby. A speeding car caught their attention, and within moments, the blue lights were chasing Dr. Carter down. To them, it was a routine stop, another reckless driver on the road. But as they cuffed him, a call came through their radio. A young boy was clinging to life at the hospital. The boy's name hit Daniels like a brick wall. It was his son, and the surgeon they'd just detained held the only chance of saving him. Officer Daniels froze, his grip on the cuffs tightening as the radio crackled with urgency. The dispatcher repeated the name. His son, Ethan, was in critical condition. For a moment, the world around him blurred. His partner, noticing his sudden stillness, asked if he was okay. But Daniels couldn't respond. His thoughts were racing. How could this be happening? Dr. Carter, still restrained, tried again to explain. "I need to get to the hospital. That boy, your son, needs me. Every second counts." His voice was calm, but there was an edge of desperation. He knew time was slipping away. Daniel's partner, unaware of the connection, remained skeptical. "How do we know he's telling the truth?" he asked, looking between Daniels and Carter. Suspicion clouded his judgment, while Daniels wrestled with the possibility that their mistake had cost his son his life. The air was thick with tension as they faced a decision that could change everything. The silence between them was deafening, broken only by the faint crackle of the radio and the distant hum of traffic. Dr. Carter's words hung in the air, heavy with urgency. "Please," he said again, his voice steady but pleading. "If I don't get there now, it might be too late." Daniel's hands trembled as he reached for his radio. His heart pounded in his chest, torn between duty and desperation. He thought of Ethan, the playful laugh, the way his son always waited by the door when Daniels came home from a shift. The thought of losing him was unbearable. His partner stepped forward, still unconvinced. "This guy could be bluffing. We don't even know if he's a real doctor." He turned to Dr. Carter, eyes narrowed. "Prove it. Why should we believe you?" Carter locked eyes with Daniels. "You don't have time to doubt me," he said. "Your son doesn't have time." The weight of those words pressed down on Daniels, and for the first time in years, he felt utterly powerless. Seconds ticked away, each one a silent reminder of how close they were to losing everything. Before Daniels could respond, another call came through the radio, this time more urgent than before. The dispatcher's voice was frantic. "We need that surgeon now. The child's condition is deteriorating. Code red." The words sent a chill down Daniel's spine, confirming what he already feared. Time was running out, faster than any of them had realized. Dr. Carter turned toward Daniels, his restrained hands shaking slightly, not with fear, but with frustration. "Let me help your son," he said firmly. "I'm not your enemy. I'm his only chance." Daniel's partner was still hesitant, but Daniels couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in his chest. Just as he was about to unlock the cuffs, another squad car pulled up. 2 more officers stepped out, their presence adding tension to the already dire situation. One of the newcomers approached, assessing the scene. "What's going on here?" he asked. But before Daniels could answer, Dr. Carter broke in. "If we keep standing here arguing, that boy won't make it." The weight of his words stunned everyone into silence. And then came the twist no one expected. The officer who had just arrived glanced at Carter, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Wait," he said, his tone shifting. "I've seen you before. You saved my wife's life last year." The revelation hung in the air, leaving everyone reeling, but the clock was still ticking. Daniels had to decide, now more than ever. Would they trust Carter, or had too much time already slipped away? Daniels didn't wait another second. He grabbed the keys and unlocked Dr. Carter's cuffs. "Go," he said, his voice shaking with urgency. "I'll drive you myself." Dr. Carter nodded, his face a mix of relief and determination, and the two sprinted toward the squad car. As they sped through the streets, sirens blaring, the radio crackled again. The situation at the hospital was critical. Ethan's condition was worsening, and the surgical team was ready but couldn't proceed without Carter. Every second felt like an eternity as they weaved through traffic, Daniels gripping the wheel tightly, silently praying for his son to hold on. They screeched to a halt outside the hospital, and Dr. Carter leaped out, sprinting toward the entrance. Daniels followed close behind, his heart pounding. Inside, the staff immediately ushered Carter into the operating room, while Daniels was left to pace anxiously in the hallway, his mind racing with guilt and fear. Hours passed like days, but eventually, the door to the operating room opened. Dr. Carter stepped out, exhaustion etched on his face. "He's stable," he said. "Your son's going to be okay." Daniel's knees nearly buckled with relief, but just as he started to thank Carter, another doctor approached. "Dr. Carter," she said urgently, "we need you in the next OR. There's been another emergency." Daniels watched in awe as Carter, without hesitation, turned and disappeared down the hall, ready to save another life. In that moment, Daniels realized the weight of his earlier assumptions and the courage it took for Carter to keep going, even after everything. Sometimes, heroes don't wear badges, they wear scrubs. As Daniels sat in the quiet hospital hallway, the weight of the night settled over him. His son was alive, and it was all because of the man he had almost kept from saving him. The memory of cuffing Dr. Carter burned in his mind, a harsh reminder of how quick he had been to judge. Hours later, Ethan woke up, weak but smiling, and Daniels couldn't hold back his tears. "You're going to be okay, buddy," he whispered, his voice cracking. Before leaving the hospital, Daniels sought out Dr. Carter. He found him in the break room, sipping a cup of coffee, his exhaustion palpable. "I don't know how to thank you," Daniels said, his voice filled with sincerity. Carter looked up, offering a small, tired smile. "Just treat people better," he said simply. Daniels nodded, knowing those words would stay with him forever. And with that, both men walked away, forever changed.